Here are the hidden details you might not have noticed in the second episode of the amazing digital circus. Pomni's room has changed from what we saw in the season trailer. We see that there is a new painting on the wall next to her bed, which was not in the trailer. Since we could see Pomni's entire room, we also noticed that she has a pair of shoes and an extra hat, which is odd considering she can't change her hat, because it's technically part of her body. However, she can probably change her shoes if she wants to, but I'm assuming the same rule applies here. Few people also noticed that Pomni, when she ran away from the room where there is a computer with VR garnitura, her teeth became sharp for some reason. It's a mystery to me. If you have any guesses on this theory, write in the comments and subscribe to the channel further. It will be more interesting. Also, Babbel's mouth is uncensored when he utters swear words. We see that when he says something really inappropriate, a beep is sounded.
Very sticky indeed.
Sounds.
Bubble, you can't say that.
And with other members of the circus, we see that their mouths are censored. This is probably due to the fact that Bubble is an NPC, and so things are handled differently with him. However, we can assume that he didn't actually utter any swear words, but said something a bit rude, so Kane censored him. Zubel's appearance has also changed from the first episode. Her left arm, chest, antenna, and even one of her legs have changed from what we saw on her in the first episode. We know that she will change her body parts every episode because she has an endless box of Zubel in her room, which we've already seen on the pin line. Also, it was seen when Pomni was falling, and the hand of Zubel that grabbed her was already different. Maybe in another episode, we will see a new version of Zubel. While Zubel will change in each episode, we also know that at some point during the season, the other members of the circus will also change their outfits, which could be related to the fast food adventure we saw. Kane also started smoking after sending the circus people on their adventure, and we can see him smoking Bubbles, which is pretty weird considering he has Bubble next to him. Bubble says he's trying to quit smoking, which is even weirder because this is technically a digital world. So why the need to quit? How can you be addicted to something in a digital world? Perhaps it's one of those things that doesn't change in the minds of circus members. However, Babbel isn't even a member of the circus, so I'm going to assume it's a breach of the fourth wall. Before the circus performers entered the Candy Canyon Kingdom, there were signs that read, "Danger," in front of the gate, and we saw a chocolate fudge monster on them. That's because Princess Lululu had to banish him from the kingdom because he was eating the people of the kingdom. But how did they banish him? I have no idea. I don't see how they could have done it unless they had some kind of weapon that we haven't seen. And what kind of monsters were swimming at the entrance to their kingdom? Some kind of gelatinous snakes, maybe they're guarding the kingdom. In the Sea of Mannequins, there are 2 who are holding hands and 2 more who appear to be fighting. One of the mannequins is shaking the other by the head, and only from one mannequin can we hear speech in this episode, and that's the one who pushed Gangle and broke her mask at the very beginning. Another thing is the very last dummy is strangely introducing himself with his arms spinning like a propeller. Perhaps it's a program glitch. When Princess Lululu comes out to the circus people, we see a butterfly flying around her, which may symbolize her kindness. Although at first I thought the princess might be evil, we saw in the episode that she was actually just a normal NPC and didn't have much depth to her character. When we see the other 2 gators with Gummig, Max, and Chad, with balls and daggers in their hands, we see that the gator with the longer arms almost stabbed the shorter gator who literally had to dodge the blow. In this scene at the 6th minute of the video, we see Kinger picking at his ear, which is rather odd since he has no ears or mouth. It's not that surprising for Kinger though, as he sometimes acts weird. We even see Pomni notice this, and she looks a little weird. In the scene where Jax forces Gangle to follow Gummig Goo's truck, we see everyone shaking from the bumpy road except Jax, whose head just stays put, showing that Jax can sometimes have chicken head physics. In this scene where Gummig Goo is crawling over his friend to look out the window, the other alligator places his head on Gummig Goo's back, showing that they're super close and have probably been friends for years. Here, where we see Ragatha with a knife in her head, is actually not the first time we saw Ragatha like this. In the Meet the Characters video, Ragatha also gets a knife in her head, so maybe this could be a recurring thing, unfortunately for Ragatha. In the space between the map, which is between the Candy Canyon Kingdom and the developer room, there are teapots just floating around, which I'm not sure what they're supposed to represent. If you remember from episode 1, in the intro, there were objects floating around in a circle, one of them being those teapots. This could have some deeper meaning, and maybe we'll see more of these objects in upcoming episodes. We've also seen Pomni falling twice in the episode, but both times she fell on her face, so this could be a recurring detail that we'll see when Pomni falls. We can also see how the fudge monster moves around in the chocolate lake, and Kevin Timer, the lead animator of the show, confirmed that they animated the chocolate fudge monster by hand so that they could really work out his movements, making them look natural. This was probably really hard. When Kinger tried to hide Regatha hair, which Jack said looked like licorice, he simply put a bucket over her head. It's kind of him to look out for Regatha, but Kinger just seems to act on gut instinct, just like when he threw an anchor at Pomni, trying to save her. Most of the time, Kinger is actually causing more harm than good, but he seems to have good intentions. The developer room also has convex mirrors on its walls, which is pretty weird, and could suggest that Kane put them there so he can use them. This would mean that he could have seen Pomni and Gummigoo down there if this were true, and maybe he just didn't care or wasn't paying attention. It's also possible that these mirrors don't work that way, and in reality, when Kane was down there, he used the mirrors to make all of the mannequins, not just the mannequins of the characters. In the scene where Pomni and Gummigoo back to the others, we see Regatta running up to Pomni to check if she's okay. In the background, if we look closely, we see that after Kinger pulls the bucket off his head, he has to place his eyes back on his body. I didn't know Kinger eyes could move like that, but based on how we saw in episode 1 that the little glink carried away his hands, I guess it makes sense that he can also take his eyes off his body if he wants to. This is weird because they're floating, so he should be able to telepathically control them, which I don't know how that works, but we're going with it. When Pomni tells Regatta that she wants to bring Gummigoo back to the circus, we see the other two alligators in the background playing patty cake, and they even dance a little bit. This was also shown to us by Kevin Temper, who said that he was just messing around with the two alligators' movements, but it seems like they kept them in the episode, which is a nice little hidden detail. During the funeral scene, when Jangle has her speech about Kaufmo, we see that she has a drawing of both of them, which means that the characters can spend their time drawing stuff if they want to. However, we can also see that despite Gengle saying that he didn't laugh at Kaufmo jokes and hoping he's not still mad at her for not laughing, they still seem to be on good terms. In the scene where Pomni is falling down in the cellar, we see that all the characters are reaching for her hand, except for Jax. This could be because Jax was the only one who didn't attend Kaufmo's funeral, so it makes sense that Pomni didn't imagine his hand helping her. This could have a deeper meaning that we'll see more of in the next episodes. Maybe Jax truly does become evil and then abstracts because of all the bad things he does, which will then get him separated from all the other circus members, almost like an outcast, and then he'll abstract. Here, we can see how big this room actually is, and there are many toys inside the tent where the circus members could play if they wanted to. Maybe we'll see more about the inside of the tent, as well as the grounds where the digital lake and the digital carnival are, so hopefully, we'll get to discover those in the next episodes. But those are all the hidden details we could find in the second episode. Let me know in the comments if you noticed any more. Thanks for watching, subscribe and click on this video here.